What's going on, everyone? Astrologer Eric Rosen here on this crusty full moon energy for April 12th, 2025. Jokingly, I say crusty because it is Sun Chiron conjunct for this full moon. And it can be irritating. It was irritating even just like getting this video going, but it's like pure ego stuff. It's like the facelift stuff, the stuff that we're healing that we've just been dealing with year after year since Chiron entered into Aries. And, it's one of those things that you can get out the mascara and try to conceal the identity wounds and act like life's okay and that you're strong, that you're masculine energy, the actions you're taking, it's all put together. We can use social media on that all day long, but this is a full moon that reminds us that it's safe to be vulnerable and talk, especially in our relationships, that balance us out and give us peace during this full moon, like for stuff that's like not going well. But I just did a quicker, like 10-minute full moon horoscope, like just did like experimenting with green screen and TikTok and just kind of like some all planets direct energy because Venus is going direct literally within the same hour as this full moon on Saturday the 12th. But I wanted to come give more of an extended cut for, especially YouTube, but also throw it up on some other places as well. Before I get too deep into this full moon energy and why I feel it's an important one, I did want to make an announcement. I'm still working on the launch, getting everything like fully transitioned over with my website. I moved it over to Kajabi so I can start hosting more just different projects that I've been wanting to work on. But what I really wanted to show people, this has been in the tank for a while, but I figured all planets direct, full moon in Libra, that's a 10th house energy for a Capricorn, which I am. It's like it's time to roll this out. So I've been thinking about community stuff for a while, just like different offerings that go beyond just the free horoscopes that I put out, the astrology readings. Of course, I do one-on-one with people. Of course, the other products that you've heard me talk about, but I wanted to do like a tiered approach, an opportunity for people to like go deeper with me if they want to. And so this is what I came up with. I used my sacral response in human design as a manifesting generator to actually come up with this. So tier one is 39 bucks a month. If you want to get weekly sun sign horoscopes, if I'll probably just be putting them as a private link on YouTube. It's not going to be open to the public. If you're more wanting something that's tailored towards what's going on with your sun sign, your rising sign, I do the monthlies, but I can only go so deep. It's free content. Of course, I do celestial conversations every Wednesday, but that's a collective horoscope. So if you're wanting to like learn more about what's going on for you on a more personal level week to week, I'll be putting out that content. I'm going to throw in my shadow work ebook that I wrote. Actually, it was back in 2018 because I understood we were going to be going through some dark transformational times. And I think there's still some people that need to deal with the remainder of the shadow work so that they can lift off fully. Because I think a lot of us light workers are finally getting to a place where it doesn't have to be all shadow psychology. We can just bridge more into that 5D sense of self. So that's that tier. It's a $39 a month subscription. Of course, you can cancel anytime. Tier two is where I'll actually give daily horoscopes. So like if you're wanting like the collective daily, you're wanting help to like understand the pulse of the energy of the day, this is what I came up with. And so you still get the weekly sun sign horoscopes and the shadow work ebook. There's probably some astrologers out there that, like, let's face it, there's so many astrologers out there, and a lot of them are putting out all their stuff for free. And to be honest, like maybe they're still figuring out how to run a business. And there's some astrologers that might be putting out paid content like this, and maybe it's like cheaper, but they're not me. You know what I mean? So like I know my worth and what I bring to the table. And so this is what I came up with. Not that I gotta like defend it or anything, like very Sun Chiron, but just, so sometimes people like will make the comparisons, and it's like it's Pluto and Aquarius. It's like we got to go deep into like what makes us unique. Like this is not about keeping up or comparisons anymore. And then tier three, this is of course more expensive, 597 a month, but this is actually where you get more access like to me on a consistent basis. So I do 3 group coaching calls per month. So anything that's coming up, anything you're wanting to build, create in your life, feeling blocked, like this is where you can come and be part of a vulnerable community and go in deeper in that way. So even listening to someone else and what they're going through is of value because energy attracts, right? So the people in the room, there's going to be some type of mirroring. And then of course I also throw in with this all the paid astrology specials that I've done and like will do. So like if you've ever seen me like do these like $8 specials, $10 specials, like for your sun rising sign for a special transit. Like I did one for Pluto and Aquarius. Like we get access to all that. And then of course you get the other ones too from the lower tiers, the dailies, the weekly horoscopes for sun rising sign, and then the shadow work ebook too. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. That I wanted to launch this for this time. So we'll see where it goes. So back to our full moon in Libra energy. First of all, I want everyone to just give themselves a pat on the back if they haven't freaked the fuck out. Like on just a human like level, like getting triggered, on people, like verbal diarrhea, or it could even be working through like the hidden critical thoughts that maybe come up because Chiron, some astrologers believe, rules the sign that is Virgo. And what's in Virgo? It's a south node. So this is very much highlighting where do we sometimes get stuck in our ego, criticisms, self-criticisms, criticisms of others. It's a waste. It's a waste of time. Like there's a saying like make art, not war. I think that's what this full moon energy reminds us. Like don't go attacking people. This is a full moon that Venus is going direct, all planets direct, right? Venus is the ruler of Libra, right? Like Mars energy and Aries rules war, but Mars is making good aspects to that North Node in Pisces, right? So there's a spiritual way that we can exist in this old fading reality where it's like, what do you do during times of uncertainty? It's like, well, you can stabilize with that Saturn Venus conjunction that's restricting things and almost like trying to hold on to the handrail of the sinking Titanic type feeling, but it's making good aspects to Uranus and Taurus, right? The stability comes from our creativity. It comes from a unique skill set that's innate to you that you express out to the world. I've said this in other iterations, but that's the biggest part of this is that this full moon is that the peace, the harmony comes from taking the actions, not inaction. That's the Chiron wound, or doing a crazy to-do list, South Node and Virgo, cleaning the house, like just like stuff that's not spiritually intuitively led. This is where we can start using our authority more in human design to upgrade ourselves, to, see that sometimes doing the thing that we're actually more in love with, more fills us with magic and gives us energy back because we do it. It's not, and then it's not escapism if it's coming from a place of actually taking consistent steps and creating momentum and using your skill set, expressing your voice of what's like unique about you. It's like I have a client that, she's been using that sacral response because she's a generator in human design. And it's like sometimes it's saying, nope, don't go do the job South Node and Virgo thing, even if there's like a schedule or a deadline, it's like go do this thing that you actually want to do. And it's like opening up her energy centers more. So part of this is the deconditioning. That's one avenue that you could say that we can use to heal the Chiron wound of the ego, to not lead from the ego, whether it's like the wounded ego of like, I, got to take this action, got to get this done. It reminds me of like a soldier that is just blindly taking orders, but it doesn't even know where the orders are coming from. And it's like, well, the orders in this astrology are coming from the subconscious, right? We're making decisions based upon wrecked value systems with this Venus that just finished its retrograde. If it feels sensitive and chaotic and we're in conflicts within ourselves and people, updating the value system, making decisions about more spiritually minded values is going to look like, maybe just like hang back and like don't get so involved in the chaos and the calamity of the world and find some peace in your own personal reality, but not from like shutting everything off and just going and like sipping lemonade on the back porch, like because like the energy needs to move. That's what I mean. Like the peace comes from like taking the aligned actions like this, and then the peace is reflecting later from a fulfilled day, like that you felt good about it. Now, that doesn't mean with this energy that there's not going to be the subconscious activity, the emotions, the sensitivities. That's very real. I always say that Aries brings up those early formative years in childhood where our ego was developing. And so Chiron Sun reminds us like there's bruises, there's cuts, there's things that haven't healed from then. And so like they come up, they get illuminated, but we can find peace by facing them, by being a brave warrioress. Like I was going through some inner child healing sensitivities, and it brought up this thing that's been coming up where it's like, gosh, when is this going to be over? And God was like, never, motherfucker. But he didn't. But in all seriousness, it can feel like, especially with the South Node in Virgo, Chiron rules Virgo, and it's in Aries. This can bring up like mental mapping of like how our identity formed and how we're almost like letting spirit, as we surrender more into the emotional realms, do what I would call psychic surgery to like release negative shit stories, self-worth issues in this astrology, like basically just anything that's like jamming the frequency, and saying that like you're like down here on some level, that when Uranus wants us to rise up and Pluto and Aquarius wants us to rise up and see how great and awesome we are, even if things can feel scattered or we're unsure of the footing, we're unsure of the steps we're taking, especially with Neptune and Aries, that it's bringing these things up so that we can like wash them out. But it's like, if we're getting into these minutia details of like one thing that happened in childhood or the past or whatever, and we're healing that, it's like, well, fuck, there's a million of those things. When's it ever going to be over? It's like, reminds me of like depending on your perspective, which is a very um, Jupiter starting to get go into a square with Saturn more. That potency is like building. Like, what's your perspective and your belief? Like, you could see it as like Santa's sack of toys, and there's treasures by facing the triggers and the wounds that you're becoming more healed and potent and facing it, even though it can feel foggy and it doesn't look like it. It can feel impractical. Ego, I don't want to deal with this. There's some other thing I want to do. I want my life to look like this or this or this you know but like those sensitivities only come up when we develop the amnesia to be like, well, no, we did manifest the circumstances that we're experiencing in life. It's just like the basics of gratitude, and then understanding that we all have a past, and that part is there for releasing so that spirit can flow through us just much easier. And so it's not about like the update itself that we're moving through isn't about chapter two of being a douchebag, and like making the same mistakes in our life and, you know, trying to prove something or, go to war over something or with a person. But what I found was like this Chiron wound, it's like, who cares when it's over? But it was more so like, wow, who knows how much more is at the bottom of Santa's bag of fucking toys and treasures, or maybe it's like, depending on the perspective, like Night Jack Skellington's bag of nightmare shit. most people might feel it as that, like, fuck, this is, scary, like brings up fear, right? Like the fears that we have to face. Chiron sign brings up, yeah, you got to deal with the pain and the things that make you shake in your boots. And that, sure, we all want peace and harmony and want to feel safe in our relationships, but are we dealing with the parts of ourselves that don't feel safe in ourselves first to create that harmony and then to feel better about taking the actions from a more healed place? But I got to a place where it was like, okay, I um I'm just gonna be okay with the sacrifice Chiron asked us. And it's like I don't know when the healing and the sensitivities and my case, the inner child stuff, which I find that true for everyone during this, to be honest. There's hardly a person I don't talk to that the thing that they're going through doesn't connect back to the karma of their childhood. It's just basic Aries, Pisces understanding that we're so focused and concentrated in, like it or not. It's just the truth. And so it's like, but I was like, the glow, the vibe, the light came from, okay, Jupiter Zeus asked us to make a sacrifice and we'll be rewarded in the end. And so the sacrifice was accepting that I don't know when it'll be over, but I'm going to show up anyway. I'm still going to show up. And that's what Chiron has been challenging us to do since 2019, is to keep showing up, but also not in that whiny victim place, but just like, you know, that bravery, that courage of like, yeah, I'm gonna lean into this wound. I'm gonna lean into the sacrifice energy, where it can actually the ugliness and messiness, the deformity of Chiron becomes beautiful. Like some of this astrology could bring up, the deformity of how we feel about our sense of self, like too, like this all can bring up the body, our health, not just the peace and balance, harmony of the full moon, but also our rest with the trine between Mars and that North Node in Pisces. And so I want to say, like, if you're not feeling your healthiest, or if your body's feeling weird, deformed, that there's random symptoms coming up, like it's okay. And it's not about like gaslighting ourselves, because we need to listen to these things, because that's what's cluing us in on like the owies of the past and our subconscious and early formative identity years and childhood and stuff like that. But it's also not getting into like a fixed headspace with Chiron right on the sun that it's all shit or something, and then we lose the perspective of the gratitude that we can actually take actions from a more healed place when we accept that some of what we're feeling is just when we're not feeling our most potent, we're not feeling our strongest. And to not like wait for the perfect remedy to come in to feel the best, like this astrology brings up, like there is no perfect moment, perfect action. It's just like you let the inspiration strike, because the longer we stay in the dwelling of the negative stuff, that can be that Chiron, Aries sun, like loneliness, isolation, I have it worse than anyone else type thing. But then we try to overcompensate with the ego, and then we try to play Superman, and we can't fly, or we can't fly far before we like run out of energy in the tank. Mars is still in its post shadow in Cancer, and with the making aspects of that North Node, it's like, hey, like be graceful with yourself, soldier. Like this is still more about shoring up the foundation and finding comfort in the magic and just how we show up. And so that primarily in this is always going to be, don't be the person that like rocks the boat with conflict, but doesn't mean avoid conversations either. This is about being direct and diplomatic with people. But, you know, there can be intensity as we're getting towards this last week of Aries season. It's reminds me of the soldier on the battlefield that doesn't have any Xanax, and it's just like kind of like a tense, anxious feeling, especially with Chiron, South Node, Virgo. But what I like about that North Node making that aspect to Mars that rules Aries, where the Sun Chiron full moon is being created, or at least the other side of it, the Sun being in a very powerful position in Aries. I think that we have to make a conscious choice to choose the spiritual connection, root into that, ground into that, find the safety, find the mothering care energy so that we don't, you know, go starting battles that we can't handle. And it would be doing it too from a place of like, I don't like this, right? It's like Eckhart Tolle's work, like I don't like it here. He would talk about the present moment, and with South Node and Virgo, it's like the present moment can feel beautiful, but it's a higher dimensional present moment with all the Pisces energy that can come to us. So, you know, the way out of this energy that that we've been feeling and that we're going to continue to feel the rest of this month, like really, I mean, it started back on the 28th, but it's this whole month as Venus retrograded back into Pisces, but it's not getting out of Saturn's energy in Pisces and it's conjuncted. It's going to be with it for the rest of the month. So those restrictions, control issues, maybe that are subconscious because of fear, deep phobias, fears could be around the Venus things of money, relationships, the stability things, like the illusion of what's going on with just the reality of currency, like the stock market tumbled and crypto tumbled, and because of the partially because of the Trump tariffs. There's so many other factors. There's worldwide stuff going on, but then he was like, "Oh, people are getting a little too shaky," and so then he paused the tariffs, and it's like, well, that maybe in some ways that makes it worse because there's no full decision, there's no full resolution, and so this is teaching us to almost like operate from our own personal updated value systems where we have to be smart, wise, like the wisdom. A lot is like, remember, you don't want to make decisions from a place of fear. Like, don't indulge in self-fulfilling prophecies that we create by choosing the lowest timeline and energy from pessimistic thoughts with that Saturn Jupiter square, and to look more at like what's the innovation with that sextile between Venus and Saturn? Like, what is how we can rise to a higher mind, but then also align decisions and actions and expressions and creations that actually are spiritual and actually have value? You could think of this as like if problem solution came into effect, right? A lot like it's a marketing business, coach, a lot of industries, right? It's like, what's the problem? What's the solution? Like, what are we providing? What are we selling? So a lot of this energy is to say it's solving the issue of fear of the old reality that's going away. And the solution is the future and the innovation and that forward progressive thinking. And so what can be difficult is it could be the stress with the South Node and Virgo of feeling like we got all these like possible tweaks that are overstimulating us and maybe giving anxiety or even making us like feel like the day is not going well. Like Saturn on Venus can bring up like weird self-worth challenges, not feeling resourced like fully. I mean, like I'm doing this like on an old HP laptop computer, and it's just a screenshot of like the chart from Astro Gold. And you don't have it on my computer. I was waiting till all planets go direct to like finally get the AI MacBook that I've been waiting to get because AI is a big part of where we're headed. It's in the astrology. It's part of the world that we're stepping into, and not everyone has to use it, but I think it's wise to because that's part of the innovating the skill set that the Saturn Venus sextile to Uranus is talking about. But so it's like it can feel like not having the right tool resource, like in my example here to present this, but then it's like there's so many steps that it feels like need to be taken, but it's about simplifying it. It's like Mercury is off, coming off that North Node, but it's still there. It's not in Aries yet. So it's like the simple way to like not get lost in the infinite realms of the universe, the mind, is what is North. A lot of it is make decisions in your value system, but know that your value system becomes more automatic when you root into the safety of a spiritual connection. And this is about developing discernment. Like, how clear is your channel? Like, are you committed to truth? Number one, are you committed to like working with the divine to like, do you understand how your intuition works? A lot of us have been going through updating how our intuition works and how we perceive reality, but the connection's never severed or lost. It might feel like it's moved or we access it differently. A lot of it is like maybe it doesn't like come as easy, like getting the gift, laying in bed type thing. And then sometimes we have to use free will and take actions and really focus. I think a lot of this brings up attention span, not getting distracted. A lot of the Saturn wisdom with the square, to Jupiter, but also with Venus and to Uranus is like you can't get distracted on things that don't have value. So it's like scrolling on social media, watching reels that are from the past and not part of where you're going, like taking in information that's not you're not intuitively drawn to. Like, I would put it this way. It's like if it goes more than a couple hours of your day and things aren't feeling in flow and synchronicity, then maybe there's something that's getting missed. It could be a thing from the past and emotions getting swept under the rug. It could be forced ego, just like trying to get things done, like a to-do list. Like, we kind of want to get back to a rhythm that we have to choose consciously, not like on some wild goose chase, soul search, needle in a haystack thing, but to just what's wanting to come through and being good with that. So this anyone that's feeling stuckness with relationships, money, trying to understand where it's going, it could be like a major long-term project. A lot of people, it could be a health situation. The way through, it's like number one, like pray on it. It's just, Pisces energy. It's like, and forgive me, if you have a religious background that you were in or stepped away from, and prayer or God are words that like are negative buzzwords, but like prayer is just like aligning your free will with the intention to connect the spirit, to get help with a direction to go in. But then I also think it's about you got to make a decision. Like, your value system should be clear after this 40-day, 40-night cycle of Venus retrograde, at least like within your being and your soul, of what's like good for you. And so hanging on to the crap of things like money, people, relationships, um, this could even be where people like are marrying their job, even business, like right now. And it's kind of like a hidden element of this is like, do you know how to balance out and find the peace during this full moon to see that if you can like let go of the control and gripping the reins like too tight with anything in the physical reality, that maybe the receptivity gets easier, because Libra is about relationships. And relationships are about receiving. It's about relating. And so full moons like relate to your emotions, relate to your soul. Like, don't over relate to the ego of what you want to do, but not isn't spiritually intuitively led. Don't over relate to the past, especially like facts that don't even have an emotional match to it. Would be like playing like the match game, like trying to match like photos. like playing a game and like trying to match a thought and an emotion. And it's like, we're better off being in a position where we let the emotion come from the intuitive action. A lot of this is about the surrendering and the evolution of like the thinking thing, because like we can run away with a train of thought where we start trying to control the reality, and it becomes isolating from source spirit. It becomes leads us further down a victimhood rabbit hole. It can isolate us from people. Like it can create a narrative that we're the only one experiencing the symptoms of how bad something is like showing up. But really, like these are more, like the challenging, aspects of things. I think one of the biggest questions we can ask ourselves during this time, the weeks going forward, is where are you? And I said this in the other quicker horoscope that I did, where it's like, it's not like what state are you in? What room are you in? Are you in your home, your office? It's like, where are you? It's kind of like the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland. Like, who are you? Like, it's a deep, crazy question, but it's like, where are you? Like, where's your spirit? Where's your energy flowing? Like, is all of you here on planet Earth, like bringing everything that you got into your awareness in the body, and that it's not about, you know, slipping into some fog of, I don't feel good, or I don't want to do it, or I can't do it, or I have to do it. It's just bringing all your energy back. It's like making a conscious choice to be brave in that way, to not, you could say, disassociate. It could be easy, some of this energy where it's just like, oh gosh, I'm over it, and like disassociating. But on the positive side of things, like this is good astrology. Like this is good energy. Like this is like where healing can happen. This is where community minded and community creations can happen, where we reach out and pick up the phone and talk to people and create things. Like I think a lot of this is saying, like, do you want another like ego lesson with Sun Chiron, like operating from the ego? Like, or would you like to balance out into more peace by connecting and more relationships and connections and things like that? That's where things are going to be better anyway. Like, this is about coming out of isolation land. Like, Chiron can feel like the exile, but the full moon is like mirroring back, like, you're not exiled. You didn't mess up. You're not going to feel this way forever. It's like, go be with what the other people that when they're alone feel like misfit toys, but when you come together, it feels like Captain Planet shit, like you're bringing your best magic. And so I think that brings up, what are those relationships? This is about committing to those further now that the retrograde's over and all planets are direct, and to start to actually build a plan and move forward in those relationships. This is about, if you have a plan around relationships, around finance, around like some, longer term project, it could be career, sense of purpose, mission like thing, like you can get out of it. You can get out of the stuckness that held you back and like actually go and do it. And it's really just only the tricks of the mind, or I don't know how, or is that even possible? And it's like, this astrology is being like bullshit. Like you can make the magic happen. Like you can go where you want to go. It's like the limiting factors are always going to be more on the emotional front, you know. So it's like kind of like a Napoleon Hill, like Think and Grow Rich, like see that anything's possible, but then also make sure you're checking in on the emotional, spiritual level, because it will help level us out and humble us and just remind us, like, hey, where are you? Like, it's cool to have this big vision and this dream, but and don't worry about trying to force execution to make it happen. But at the same time, it's also don't isolate and just keep doing the same things over and over again. I think that's the biggest victim trap. And to actually go have the new experiences, because the Saturn Jupiter square is being like, hey, like there's things you haven't tried in your world. There's places you haven't visited in the world that is your local community. There's groups of people that you haven't spoken to. There's perspectives that you haven't tried out yet. And so if you feel any dips in the vibe, it's like go for the walk. Go put yourself in like a different environment. It's full moon in Libra. It's like go watch the sunset. Like things don't happen overnight with this astrology, nor should it, because that our ego would get ahead of ourselves. We get too big for our britches, but it's like the magic and the beauty and the receptivity. Remember, vibing up highest truth is going to look like having that spiritual connection, to always be willing to sacrifice the headstrong ego perspective outlook of things that just may not be part of your highest timeline, that it may not fit the whispers and the intuitive messages that have been coming in. So don't like double down on like self defeat, of limiting factors of self or what can happen, but also not allowing the ego to run wild, like creating its own ideological stories, like too. So that's going to come more from, like when in doubt, if it's like, well, it's having trouble answering the question, where am I? It's like, just come back to the heart, baby. It's like, that's always going to be where things are the clearest, and reminds us like, oh shit, yeah, maybe I was trying to go do something that felt glittery and glamour and cataloggy and very just the seductive allure of it. And it's like, actually, I don't want that. That's not part of my value system. My heart says otherwise. And it's like, perfect. Like, go with your heart, because otherwise, like, astrology could just be like, I'm trying to find peace by just doing some action that's like stimulating, but it's actually overstimulating the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. We get in fight or flight mode, and then we miss the intuitive message, we miss the peace, we miss the connection, we miss receiving the beauty that can come in. And so that's why it's like being okay about being the soldier that's still healing and is on the mend. And it's like, but that's where it's like the angels come in. Like they come to the aid, they come to the rescue. Performance, achievement, getting the win, public enemy in yourself, like number one right now. Don't let the world and media and convince you of stuff. I wouldn't even let other people's like wins like create the you know weird outlook illusion that, oh man, like that person's doing that thing, and it's like there's things going on in their life that they wish would go away, and some people, it could feel like, I wish I would trade places with you. It's like, you got a roast beef, I have a ham sandwich, I want the roast beef. It's like, well, I think I like a ham sandwich, but I guess we'll trade. But it's like, you can't. So it's not about like trading places with someone either. Like that gets into like weird territory of like the subconscious escapism, where we think about where life could be or how it could look like this, with that person's got it like this way, or gosh, in the past, this thing. And it's like, everything can be getting better right now, and everything in a lot of ways should be getting better. But it's just the understanding that we might be comparing it to yesteryear sometimes, where it wasn't actually great, you know, and we've just lost relativity of comparison of what is even considered good and valuable anymore. But Saturn is like here to help us like really dedicate to solving what can seem like an impossible equation of like, where are we, where are we going, like how do we take everything, all the information, everything that's come in and actually like make it happen and master it? Is it going to be different than it was in the past? And so it's like some of it is like fuck around and find out, like take the action, but then if it feels like weird afterwards, cool, reflection time, full moon in Libra, go deeper into it. But ultimately, our best asset is to make decisions that it stabilizes us to go do different things, take different actions that are just different than how we've been doing it before. Because doing the same familiar tempo comfort zone over and over again isn't going to cut it. That would be that sextile between that South Node in Virgo and Mars. Same tired ass routine around the house, like the alarm clock goes off, I go do this, I go do that. Like it's like the hamster wheel where it's not locked and it's like, no, I want to be Mr. Anderson and not Neo. No, I want to be Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. And it's like we became our own mental prisoner of our own comforts and some people never want to wake up out of that. And that's what's crazy too. It can be like crazy, like, you mean, what do you mean people don't want to like know what's really happening that we've been believing that's not true, or what's really going on? Or what do you mean you don't want to see your blind spots and grow as a soul? But some people are like that. But we also have to be okay with the maturity to see that that's ultimately what this is about the most. Is it's not about the physical reality so much about what we're doing. It's more about what we're moving away from that we won't do anymore, those patterns. So let spirit connect us to the true self that we're becoming, because when we starve those patterns and distractions, it's a good form of isolation where it's just you and the divine and your updated future self that you're becoming and the expression of that. So it's not about figuring out the terrain ahead, the business, the money, the relationships. It's align as a soul first into just not being that old person anymore. And then if the snags happen with Chiron, like that's okay. Like it's even about finding new ways to address those as long as they're not reactive. And even if they are, it's not like letting the ego run wild of a self-righteousness where it becomes destructive, right? Because this is the sun and is going to be crossing Eris too. So this full moon opposing Eris, it's like don't be the person that like thinks that like it's going to be more beautiful if there is a conflict or a war. It's not. Like that's just the ego just getting its adrenaline going to pour into the wound, but the adrenaline stalls, it delays the healing of the wound where we don't need to be in that conflict anymore. It's about rising out of the friction and the over aggressiveness and actually just creating and, you know, asking for help from people too, like relationships, community. Like you can't, it's like the saying is like Rome wasn't built in a day. It's more like you can't really build anything without supportive networks now. I think about it as like it's like global world stuff systems breaking down. And so a lot of this astrology points to the world is as stable and as strong as your community, like the people that you're having conversations with and that you're feel stable with, safe with, right? And to have those conversations, especially like if they're sensitive, spiritual, like almost like, hey, this might sound weird, but here's what's going on with me. It's like it's vulnerability. It's vulnerability 101. And then you can get down to business. Or, channel the business side of things, but then talk about the personal side of things. I've been banging this drum for fucking years that where business and how things get done is evolving is we have to honor the triggers and the personal side of it too. I don't think we can just leave things at the door anymore, the revolving door of the corporate building and pretend like everything's okay. Like people that all changed like with the COVID and the lockdown, so people started going back to work, but I think we have to do that for ourselves personally, personal check-ins, like this is getting out of the mindset that the world reality, there's something imposing its will on you that you can't take better care of self or a relationship, and that those so-called mental health days, like instead of like a sick day, that it's like you have to use less of those because what are the strategies and what is the Venus retrograde, especially on Saturn, been teaching of like better ways to be disciplined, to be more sensitive to our needs and to make decisions around those things. And then and then like we don't even have to map this out. Then like the people that we're helping, that we're being of service, like that all just comes easier and like things click and the appreciation is there whenever we've checked the tank, we checked the gas tank and we know that we have enough in the tank to go to the next thing. So, you know, hope this horoscope finds you well. You know, it's I spent extra time on this one because I think that we're in between some zones still in a way, but we're also in a new realm of things. We're getting used to it. And sometimes I think we can be held hostage by our own ego about expecting some drama or some psychodrama or friction. But this astrology is saying like, no, like if like souls being born like during this astrology right now, they'll have their challenges. There's no doubt about it. Like that this were some, you know, little baby's natal chart, right? The baby's being born. But it reminds me of like those motivational sports movies, like, you know, I don't know, Invictus or Rudy or something like that. Like there's an underdog energy, but the underdog energy doesn't come from like I'm gonna out train you, I'm gonna outdo you, I'm gonna outdo this. It's more so your spirit. Like it's like, oh man, that person has a fighter spirit. They have a fighting spirit. And that's why I mentioned it's like the sensitivities, the healing. It's like the fighter spirit is like, yes, God, like I'm gonna lean into this sacrifice of this Chiron wound and keep doing the healing. I'll show up. You know, it doesn't matter how long the road is or when it's going to end or the schedule or the clocking in or clocking out of it. You just show up to it. That is the bravest shit right now, is the person that's just like willing to like lean into the real, what I would call spiritual facts, which is that we've all been burned by the fire and in some ways the skin's still healing. And it can feel weird of detecting even what that is, but it's like lean into it. Lean into the sensitivity, lean into the trigger, the reactivity. What's the obvious alternative? Getting pissed at the world, a relationship, bringing it into the family unit, like bringing like the self-righteous, like justice, like warrior to it, being a keyboard warrior, you know, but also to not hide too. You know, it's time to start making moves. It's all planets direct. Um, the only excuses now are ego ones. We still deserve grace and compassion, but um, just because we've been used to slipping on banana peels doesn't mean we need to throw the banana peel on the paths that we walk to and sabotage with the shitty narratives. Like we evolve out of that by going, yeah, this is no place to be. Let me just express, like it's like you got it, like are you okay, can you fight, can you take the action, cool, and then you go and you create the thing. Um, Not about perfection, but you know, not feeling well, fatigued, drained, check in on the emotional front, check in on the past. It's probably something that needs the attention. It's not about forcing the adrenaline shot to like win the day or to keep going. That is, I was gonna say retarded. That word might be triggering for some people. I mean, I learned recently that it just means that you're behind, like retardation is just like there's a lag effect, a learning curve. But there's sensitivities now in the modern world of what words mean. But historically, before people started using it to refer to people that like had like a limitation or like a mental handicap or something. So, and that's the other thing too. It's like just stay away from people that say that you're not compassionate or empathetic because of how you're showing up. Like anyone that's willing to attack someone's like character right now, like think of the pain that person must be in to attack another human being's like character, well-being. Like that's what I mean about self-righteousness. Like what underneath that self-righteousness is probably a deep sense of self-loathing that they're just so numb to, right? Because no one likes to feel the sensitivity of Chiron. It's like, get me out of here. And all this Pisces energy, stellium, it's like people could numb out, but that's not what we want to be doing. It's not you, right? Like, you know. So, anyways, for anyone who's interested, I didn't mention how to access it, but those new tiered community offerings, just message me. And feedback is good too, and like what the offerings are. But I'll drop the links down below the video so you can check out the new website and that information. And of course, as always, if you want to get an astrology reading, you want to check out the ebook, etc., all this stuff. I'll have those links down below as well. So yeah, I think the wisest use of this full moon, um, even if it felt like being a bump on the log, waiting to become the transform self, that's still better than going out in the world and wielding a broken sword and being the wounded warrior that is just contributing more chaos to the world. So when in doubt, don't act, don't react, find the peace, um, not in the glitter of what you're gonna do or what the future holds, but to allow yourself to come to a poise and a centeredness in the way you relate to yourself, to give yourself a spirit's fighting chance to express more harmony in everything that it is that you're creating in your life. So appreciate you all. See you next time.